Harry sent a pre-action letter, never had the balls to actually go through with it and go to court with it, but he'd already gone to the police with it, even though this was just a fantasy. It was a total fantasy in his head. At the same time, Byline Times also tried to destroy private life using totally nefarious means and very bad actors who were determined to destroy him.
Prince Harry's war with the media has officially backfired, and this time, even the royals are joining in the humiliation. Court documents have exposed what many are calling Harry's secret media collusion, revealing possible coordination between his legal team and Byline Times, the same outlet accused of manipulating evidence. The man who once condemned the tabloids now finds himself tangled in their tactics, and the irony is almost poetic. Then came the royal clapback. King Charles, Prince William, and Princess Catherine stepping out in matching gray suits, the very symbol Harry once used to mock the palace. No statements, no interviews, just silent, devastating irony. From courtroom chaos to royal shade, this might be Harry's most embarrassing moment yet. And there's so much to unpack here, from the collusion claims to the courtroom fallout to how the royals just flipped Harry's own words against him. When Prince Harry stormed out of royal life, one phrase from his book stuck like a scar: the men in gray suits. He claimed those shadowy advisors controlled every royal decision, silencing him and Meghan until they finally walked away. But this week, those same gray suits turned into a weapon, and the royals used it with surgical precision. At a public engagement that looked almost too coordinated to be coincidence, King Charles, Prince William, and Princess Catherine appeared together, each of them dressed in strikingly similar gray outfits. No speeches, no statements, just quiet confidence. And inside royal circles, whispers say the message was unmistakable. The monarchy doesn't bow to headlines, it creates them. Observers couldn't help noticing the timing. Harry was battling humiliation in court. The palace was gliding through press photos that spoke louder than any interview. The contrast was deliberate theater, the kind the Windsors have mastered for generations. For Catherine, it was effortless dominance, smiling, composed, unbothered. While Harry's image trembled under the weight of scandal, she simply stepped out, and the world took note. Insiders say, even within Kensington, staff joked that this was the most graceful rebuttal in royal history. The takeaway was clear. The royal family hadn't just responded to Harry's accusations, they'd reclaimed them. What he once used as an insult had become their uniform of power. And for a monarchy built on symbolism, that's not petty, it's strategic. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was tense, cameras flashing, lawyers whispering, and Prince Harry sitting stone-faced as a series of documents began to unravel his case from within. What was meant to be his grand moment of vindication quickly morphed into something else entirely, a slow-motion embarrassment that left even seasoned reporters stunned. The bombshell? Court filings revealed connections between Harry's legal strategy and a publication long accused of blurring ethical lines, Byline Times. That's right. The same outlet that had built a reputation for its anti-tabloid crusades was now being accused of something far darker, manipulating evidence to support Harry's claim against major media houses. According to observers, the court learned that key information from Harry's team had somehow found its way to journalists at Byline Times, raising serious questions about whether the prince's pursuit of truth had quietly crossed into backroom collusion. One senior barrister reportedly murmured that it was an astonishing reversal, the very man who claimed to expose the media's corruption, now entangled in its shadowy side. As emails were read aloud and timelines dissected, the irony grew impossible to ignore. For years, Harry had painted himself as the victim of ruthless reporters, but in court, that narrative began to unravel, replaced by something murkier: whispers of selective leaks, secret briefings, and evidence that didn't quite add up. The judge's patience wore thin. Reporters in the gallery traded looks as details emerged, suggesting that parts of Harry's argument might have been influenced by journalists connected to convicted phone hacker Graham Johnson. The word hypocrisy echoed through headlines before the hearing even ended. By the time the day was over, the damage was done. The courtroom wasn't just a place of justice anymore. It had become a mirror, reflecting a version of Harry he'd spent years denying. And the question on everyone's mind was simple: had Prince Harry, in trying to expose corruption, just proven himself part of it? If the courtroom revelations were explosive, what came next was pure detonation. Because once Byline Times was mentioned, everything changed. For months, whispers around Fleet Street suggested that Prince Harry's team had been working hand in glove with the outlet to strengthen his lawsuits against the tabloids. But what stunned observers was the sudden reappearance of a familiar name, Graham Johnson, a man once convicted of phone hacking who later found redemption working for Byline Times. It was the twist nobody saw coming. The prince who'd built his public crusade around media ethics was now indirectly tied to someone accused of the very crimes he'd spent years condemning. And while no one claimed Harry personally knew Johnson, the optics were devastating. As one court insider put it, it doesn't matter whether he signed the emails. The connection itself is enough to destroy the moral high ground. Journalists quickly connected the dots. Dan Wotton, one of Harry's most outspoken critics, claimed that the prince had colluded with Byline to plant coordinated narratives in an attempt to reignite old lawsuits that had already expired under the 6-year limitation rule. Whether true or not, the claim stuck, because it fit a pattern the public had already begun to see, a prince desperate to win, even if it meant breaking his own rules. Observers noted that the energy in court shifted completely. The sympathy that once surrounded Harry, the idea of a wronged son fighting a cruel press, began to evaporate. What took its place was quiet disbelief. Had the man who fled the tabloids really been secretly feeding one of them? By the end of the day, commentators were calling it one of the biggest self-inflicted PR wounds in royal history. A campaign meant to expose corruption had instead left Harry standing in the wreckage of his own credibility. And while the court would continue its hearings, the real trial had already begun. The trial of public opinion. While the courtroom swirled with chaos, Buckingham Palace didn't utter a single word. Not a statement, not a leak, not even a whisper from royal aides. And yet their silence spoke louder than any public comment ever could. Insiders close to the palace say the king and his team have adopted what they call the long game. No reaction, no rebuttal, just a carefully staged contrast between royal dignity and Harry's self-inflicted turmoil. And that contrast was on full display this week. As Harry's courtroom revelations dominated headlines, Princess Anne was photographed in Kyiv, shaking hands with military officers, visiting hospitals, and representing Britain on the global stage. The timing was razor sharp. While one royal made noise in court, another made history in Ukraine. It was the monarchy's message, delivered in perfect royal code. We're still doing the job you walked away from. Meanwhile, Prince William and Catherine carried on with their public engagements, visiting schools, hosting charity events, projecting composure and normalcy. The kind of effortless grace that said, without words, we don't need to defend ourselves, the world can see the difference. Behind closed doors, whispers suggest King Charles has quietly instructed senior aides to maintain a complete distance from Harry's legal battles. No coordination, no interference, not even background briefings. As one palace insider reportedly put it, let him fight his own fight. The institution must stay above it. It's a tactic as old as the crown itself, the art of winning by doing nothing. And this week, it worked flawlessly. While Harry's credibility crumbled in court, the monarchy's silence became its loudest statement yet. When the hearing ended, the headlines didn't just sting, they scorched. Across Britain and beyond, newspapers branded Harry's case a disaster, calling it everything from a royal circus to hypocrisy on trial. Even outlets that once gave him sympathy now turned cold, highlighting the irony of a prince railing against corruption while tangled in whispers of collusion. On social media, the ridicule was merciless. Clips of Harry entering court were spliced with memes of collapsing castles, captions mocking him as the Prince of Contradictions. Twitter feeds filled with jokes about gray suits winning the war, a direct nod to the royal family's silent but devastating clapback. And it wasn't just the press piling on. Observers noted that members of the public outside the courtroom booed as Harry's convoy pulled away. For a man who once spoke of his desire to be seen as credible, it was a humiliation few royals had ever endured so publicly. Meanwhile, commentators said the palace's quiet satisfaction was almost palpable. One veteran royal reporter remarked, "They don't need to gloat. Every headline is doing it for them." But the most brutal assessment came from Harry's critics, who called this moment the ultimate undoing of his crusade. "You can't condemn the tabloids while colluding with them," one pundit scoffed. And that sentiment spread like wildfire. For years, Harry has built a reputation on being the truth teller, the whistleblower, the royal willing to stand up to the machine. But now, in the eyes of the public, he looked less like a crusader and more like a man caught in his own contradictions. What was supposed to be Harry's moment of triumph had transformed into one of his greatest humiliations. And the fallout was only just beginning. For many watching, this courtroom fiasco wasn't just about legal arguments or old headlines. It was about something far deeper, a clash of identities. Prince Harry versus the very institution that shaped him. From the moment he stepped away from royal duties, Harry positioned himself as the rebel prince, the truth teller breaking centuries of silence. But this week, the mask cracked. What the public saw instead was a man still tethered to the system he swore to escape, still obsessed with its approval, and still haunted by its judgment. Palace watchers say this is the most dangerous kind of royal war, one fought not with power, but perception. The Windsors play a long game built on endurance and image, while Harry and Meghan operate on emotion and exposure. It's two philosophies colliding, and only one can survive the glare of public opinion. Insiders whisper that behind palace walls, there's quiet confidence. Not arrogance, but certainty that the monarchy doesn't need to attack. Harry's doing that for them. Every court appearance, every controversy, every headline of collusion reinforces a single idea that leaving the institution didn't set him free, it left him spiraling. The gray suits he mocked have outlasted his rebellion. The family he accused of silence has weaponized that silence. And the very system he tried to expose is now exposing him, piece by piece, before the entire world. Because in the monarchy's world, time is power. They don't react, they wait. And while Harry burns bright in the chaos of each scandal, the crown stays steady, patient, and eternal. In the end, this wasn't a court loss, it was a public unmasking. And even those closest to him are beginning to wonder, how many more battles like this can Harry survive before there's nothing left to fight for? From courtroom chaos to royal silence, from whispered collusion to the cold precision of gray suits, this week proved one thing: the monarchy never fights loud, but it always fights smart. Prince Harry set out to expose the press, but somewhere along the way the spotlight turned, and he became the story. Every new revelation, every whispered connection, every ironic headline about his so-called truth crusade has chipped away at the image he spent years building. And while Harry battles the media in court, the royal family keeps winning the public war, not with words, but with presence. William and Catherine's calm, King Charles's quiet dignity, Princess Anne's relentless duty. Together, they're shaping a contrast that even Harry's strongest supporters are struggling to ignore. Critics now say this may mark the true breaking point, not just between father and son, but between Harry and the institution itself. Because how do you come back from publicly accusing your family only to end up accused of the very same tactics? It's a royal twist so thick in irony, even the tabloids couldn't have written it better. And as one palace aide quietly put it, he wanted the truth. Well, he got it. This is Hollywood Daily Reports. Subscribe now because there's always more to uncover, and trust me, the next royal scandal might make this one look like child's play.